أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب زدني علما رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير ثم أما بعد والحمد لله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Respected brothers and sisters, welcome to another one of our weekly hadith lessons from Riyadh al-Salihin. I've got a bit of a incoming cold, so apologies for any disturbances because of coughing, etc. But inshallah, we shall carry on as per usual, bi'idhnillah. Our chapter today is chapter number 290, which is باب تحريم النظر إلى المرأة الأجنبية والأمرد الحسن لغير حاجة شرعية. The chapter of prohibition of gazing at a woman with lust without a reason. And the next part, listen carefully because you can misunderstand it. And the chapter in which we will be seeing prohibition of even staring at boys with desire. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So this is of course from the shumuliyya of our religion and from the fact that Allah knows the diseases of the heart, Allah knows the sins that can occur, and Islam is aware and Islam forbids. So this is a very interesting chapter name and a very interesting mas'ala, a very important one, because just like it is haram for you to look at a woman with shahwa, with desire, in a illegitimate way, it would also be, that would be wrong, that would be haram. It would also be wrong for a person to look at even someone of the same gender with desire. This is something very important for people to notice and for people to realize, especially in light of the isms and ideologies that have been propagated in society today. As for the first evidence, قال الله تعالى قل للمؤمنين يغضوا من أبصارهم. Allah said, O Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم, tell the believers to lower their glances, يغضوا من أبصارهم, to lower their gaze, ويحفظوا فروجهم, and thereby, and they should protect their private parts. And this goes to show to us that غض البصر and the lowering of the gaze is connected to abstaining from zina and it's also connected to protection of the private parts, because one leads to the other. And we learn from the hadith that the unchecked glances, the uncontrolled glances, the seeing and the staring and the looking with shahwa at that which you're supposed to be, not to be staring at, is the poisoned arrow of Iblis. The poisoned arrow of Iblis, whereby this poisoned arrow, it affects and damages the heart. And because it's poisoned, the poison spreads and damages the rest of the heart. Which means that if we don't control our glances, don't control our eyes, then this could destroy the rest of our iman, destroy the rest of our actions, the rest of the purity of our heart, the chastity of a person's character, persona, and the cleanliness of their heart could be damaged by simply in the sense that it's one action, but not simple in terms of the crime it entails. If a person doesn't control their glances, then this could be a destruction of their heart. May Allah guide us all and protect us. Allah says, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ. Tell them to instruct them to lower their glances. And this lowering of their glance means to turn away. Because sometimes you look up, it's wrong, and then you look down, it's also wrong. You look right, it's wrong. You look down, it's left. Look left, it's also wrong. So what do? You look away. You close your eyes if need be. So look down, it means to look away from that which is haram. وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ وَيَحْفَظْنَ فُرُوجَهُنَّ. And the same instruction then is also addressed to the women, believing women. And tell the believing women to also lower their glances from looking at men with shahwa in a way that's illegitimate. And in the case of the maftoon, to even look at, for women to look at other women with desire is also wrong. in an illegitimate way. وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ وَيَحْفَظْنَ فُرُوجَهُنَّ, and let them protect their private parts and their chastity. Allah says, إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. Indeed, the hearing and the seeing and fu'ad, the heart, all of it is asked about and to be questioned about and brought to account. Allah says, يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ. Allah knows, has ilm of the خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ, the deception, the fraud of the eyes, the glances of the eyes, the uncontrolled glances of the eyes. يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ, and that which the hearts hide. Allah also says, إِنَّ رَبَّكَ لَبِالْمِرْصَادِ. Indeed, your Lord is ever watchful. He knows everything. Every glance, every eyesight, every moment that we do, we see, we hear, Allah is fully aware and will be holding to account. As for the hadith 1622 عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال كتب على ابن آدم نصيبه من الزنا مدرك ذلك لا محالة العينان زناهما النظر والأذنان زناهما الاستماع واللسان زناهما الكلام واليد زناها البطش والرجل زناها الخطى والقلب يهوى ويتمنى ويصدق ذلك الفرج أو يكذب. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu warda narrated, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Allah has written that every child of Adam will be falling into a portion, not the full act, but a portion of zina. That doesn't mean that every single person is going to commit zina. It means that they will fall into a portion. So what is that portion? We're about to understand. The hadith is explaining it. That portion of adultery and that which is which a person will indulge in, and they will not be able to escape it because this is life. Just like as a human being, can you escape sin? No. You can't escape sin. كل بني آدم خطأ. Every son of Adam is sinful. And Allah has made it such that so that we can do istighfar, so that we can remain humble, so that we can remain forever asking for forgiveness from Allah Rabbul Izzah. That's Allah's decree, Allah's wisdom, Allah's command. If Allah wanted, He could have made us like the angels who cannot sin, but that was for that creation. As for you, you are mukhayyar, you have the choice to choose sin or to choose piety, and thereby attaining a reward, or being doomed to your punishment. May Allah protect us all. And so therefore, a person will fall into sin naturally. And this is exemplified, and the precedent is set by the history of humanity, whereby Sayyiduna Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, he also made a mistake. He also made a mistake. If Allah wanted, He could have decreed that this shouldn't occur. But Allah taught us through that story of Sayyiduna Adam and Hawa alayhi salatu wasalam how to react and how to behave at moments of sin. Allah says, قَالَا رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا. They said, oh Allah, we've sinned. Oh Allah, we've erred. Oh Allah, we've been mistaken. We have oppressed ourselves. وَإِن لَمْ تَغْفِرْ لَنَا وَتَرْحَمْنَا لَنَكُونَ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. And if you do not forgive us, and if you do not have mercy upon us, indeed we shall be from those who are losing. I think it's just going to make it worse because it's cold water. Inshallah, I'll make it brief inshallah for today. Barakallah fiqh. It's just, I think that, what happens in the throat, some sort of, something bad bacteria gets in and then it's trying to chuck it out. And there's no escape. I've had it so many times. And I've always wished there was a quick route to solving it, but it never seems to be the case. So you just have to write it out. SubhanAllah, I'm actually surprised sometimes. I had one just after Ramadan. I don't know. This is my fitna. This is my difficulty. This is my punishment for my mistakes. May Allah forgive me and expiate my errors because of it. Ameen. Anyway, so he says, the hadith says, there is no escape from it. So, a person will fall into sin. And a person will fall into a portion and a fragment of zina. How so? The hadith says, the adultery and the zina of the eye is to look in a lustful way. This goes to show us, brothers and sisters, that not controlling your eyes is not a small matter. It's been equated to zina of the eyes. So there is such a thing as zina of the eyes, whereby we're looking without controlling and restraining our glances. So a person will naturally, will by default, will inevitably fall into that sin at some point. But what's their duty? To refrain from it completely, that's impossible. But your duty is to do istighfar and tawbah and return to Allah. Tawbah is to return to Allah, to turn to Allah. Awbah is to go back to Allah. Inaba is to resort to Allah. Always istighfar to seek forgiveness from Allah. As for the adultery and the zina of the ears, is to listen to haram, to enticing speech, to enticing songs. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Today's music industry is full of filth. You can't even escape it by going to the supermarket. You hear words, you think, what on earth are they saying? Yani, what are you saying? And there's kids here, there's people here, there's families here, there's children. The words are just unbelievable, it's disgusting. And it's become common. Oh, it's just music. It's just entertainment. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. This is the music that is haram. That is a sin. And that is from the tools of shaitan to misguide people and to turn their hearts away from the dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jalla. So yes, the zina of the ear is to listen to such inciting or such evil, such wrong, such such seducing, such whatever you want to call it, right? Such wrong. Listen to a person's voice with desire, whether it be for a woman or even a man. If someone is listening to a person's voice in lust, then this is wrong. Wallahi, this is serious. This is what it is. Why? As for the adultery of the speech, of the tongue, the adultery of the tongue is to speak in a lustful way, trying to flirt and do X, Y, and Z, trying to entice someone, and all of this in a wrong way. Of course, if you're going to use your sweet words to flirt with your wife, then go ahead, and that's fine. This is halal to speak to your wife in a nice way, to romanticize and to be sweet. This is fine. Use all of the rosy words you want with your halal spouse, but to use it in the wrong place at the wrong time, then this is a sin. This is a form of zina of the tongue. And most of the men that do this, I'm telling you, they're liars. You are the most beautiful woman I've seen in my life. He's lying. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. But the point is, to use your tongue in this wrong way is haram in the first place. As for the adultery of the grip and the hand, is to lustfully touch something. Anything that you are touching lustfully in a way to achieve lust, right? Then this is also a form of zina, especially, of course, in the case of, firstly and foremost, a female, if you are a male, and if you're a female, then a male. And then also that expands onto other things which you may be doing lustfully. And this is a big discussion, but there's children here who can't have that discussion. But it's a discussion about the whole concept of protecting and the chastity, protection of our chastity, and to what extent, what does Islam encourage and so on. As for the adultery of the feet, is to walk towards sin. Adultery of the hand is to deal and to advance towards sin with your hand, and feet is to walk towards sin. As for the heart, it yearns and desires. Your heart is also going to be involved. But then your heart is hard to control, but your job that you're held accountable for is whether you then approve it or you disapprove your heart's and your mind's inclination. Are you going to be like an animal, that every desire and every thought that comes you enact it? Or are you a human being whose head is at the top and not his private part? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Today's a lot of people in society, they don't think with their mind, they think with their desires. They think with their hormones, their desirous hormones, and their lust. That's not what Islam is teaching us. That's not what Allah made us for. Allah put us in beautiful fashion. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. Allah has given you intellect, Allah has given you knowledge, Allah has given you understanding, Allah has given you speech, Allah has given you revelation to be guided by. So this means, beloved brothers and sisters, that we need to be very careful, because regardless of how pious one may be, there's a warning for all of us. regardless of how pious one may be, we are all prone to falling into a form of zina, which could be of the hand, of the feet, of the eyes, of the ears, of the tongue, and so on. So you have to be careful. 1623 عن أبي سعيد الخدري رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إياكم والجلوس في الطرقات قالوا يا رسول الله ما لنا من مجالسنا بد نتحدث فيها فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فإذا أبيتم إلا المجلس فأعطوا الطريق حقه قالوا وما حق الطريق يا رسول الله قال غض البصر وكف الأذى ورد السلام والأمر بالمعروف والنهي عن المنكر. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri narrated that the Prophet radiyallahu anhu arda narrated the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, avoid sitting on the roadsides, avoid chilling on street corners, avoid wasting your time on the pavements, avoid sitting on the roads. His companion said, O Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there is no alternative but to sit there to talk. Because it's a social place. Back then they never had your social places and etc. They never had the, what do you have nowadays? You have cafes, you have restaurants, you have chaiwala and non-stop, and you have all of these other fancy places that you go to. They used to sit on the street and see their friends and talk and enjoy a few moments. So we have to sit there, Rasulullah. How else are we supposed to see our friends? How else are we supposed to see our companions? We see them in the majlis, but it's busy with ibadah. Homes, you don't think every home had a living room like back in the day. Homes are small. Only some which are very fortunate had larger houses. So they said, we have to sit there, Rasulullah, to speak and to communicate. Thereupon the Prophet ﷺ said, okay, fine. If you have to sit there, because you have a valid reason to, that means the original default is to avoid it. To avoid blocking the streets, loitering. Being one of those guys that sit on the street corners do. It's not a good sight. It's not a good sight. SubhanAllah, today's situation has come that those who are out there are better than those who are inside a lot of the time. Because a lot of the times people that are inside the house are on the internet doing all sorts of wrong. So it depends what you're doing as well. If you're sitting out there, just getting some fresh air, seeing your friends, and that's fine, as long as you fulfill the rights of the streets. Then someone who's sitting at home, watching this and watching that, and doing this and doing that, and is committing haram, and is falling into sin. So he said, if you have to sit then, if there is no other alternative but to sit on there to talk, the Prophet ﷺ said, if you have to sit at all, then fulfill the rights of the road. What are the rights of the road? If anyone asks you, what are the rights of the road? They said, Ya Rasulullah, what are the rights of the road? Thereupon the Prophet ﷺ said, your first and foremost right of the road that you need to fulfill for the road, an obligation upon you, your duty is to lower your gaze. How pertinent, how suitable. Because what do a lot of these people do that are sitting on the streets? They're looking around right and left. And if you ask them, Akhi, why are you doing that? Because I'm looking for a wife. You're a liar, you're 16 years old. You can't even afford money for 2 wings and chips until I'm looking for a wife. They know they're lying. La hawla wa quwwata illa billah. Controlling your glance, because at this stage, you're going to only put yourself into more problem, because then you will become incited and you fall into problem. It will be hard to control your desires. So lower your gaze and uproot the problem from its origin. Nip it at the bud, as we say, So the first duty of the street is that if you're going to sit there, you must lower your gaze. And yet, this is the biggest problem of society. And women and men complain that they're passing by, and then what they call them, catcalling. Catcalling. A'udhu billah. This is a form of harassment, and it's not allowed in Islam. So that you may not stare at unlawful things. And then, the next right of the road is refraining from doing some harm to others. So if you're going to sit there, then make sure you're not blocking the pavement for people to walk on. A lady wants to move with her wheelchair, another one with her pushchair, another person, elderly person, 2 people are walking together. You shouldn't be blocking the road for them. They should be able to move freely. And yet, these self-proclaimed thugs and gangsters are blocking the roads of council flats. They can't even press the buzzer and feeling like somewhat full of themselves while consuming pink balloons. Have some shame on you. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. But blocking people's way is from the sins. And it's not allowed. It's not something that you can indulge in if you're going to be sitting on the streets or blocking pathways. You can't block it. You must give people their right of way. The right of way. They have a right of way. Okay. So lowering your gaze, refraining from doing some harm to others, and then it says responding to salam, or giving and greeting salam, and especially responding to salam. Giving salam is sunnah, but responding could be wajib, because you have to respond. You have to respond. If someone says salam to you, then you must respond. And there was a sheikh that was, my brother told me, there was a sheikh that he knew when he went to Egypt, and if he would go past you in the street, he would say, Assalamu alaikum. And sometimes, some people are lazy, they don't respond. He goes, Rud, answer me right now. Give my salam back to me. Say wa alaikum assalam. Because you have to give people salams back. So yes, Ruddu salam, you have to give people salams back, especially if you're going to be sitting on the street in the public area.
Yeah. So imagine you're sitting there reading Quran, and somebody walks in and goes, Assalamu alaikum. And you then, while you're reading, you say, wa alaikum salam, and carry on reading. What do you do that?
It's a very, very interesting one, this one.
Because there's been an occasion where you're reading Quran and somebody walks in and you could be the only person or another person, and this person just says salam to you and you're not totally. What do you do?
The person that's giving salam when they enter into the masjid or enter into a house, they're not just giving salam to the people, they're also giving salam to the angels and the jinns. Yes? If you are engaged in the Quran and if you feel like it's going to distract you, then you'll have an excuse. You'll have a reason, you'll have a valid reason not to. If you have a valid reason to not return the salam. But if you can, as in stop at an ayah, stop at a waqf, stop at a gym, stop at a ta, stop.
That's what I'm saying, because I feel obliged to say wa alaikum salam.
I believe for the social general good. If you are not distracted, if you're not so immersed into tilawah, because unless you're one of those great mutadabbirin fil Quran, the words mufassir, they used to be so immersed in the Quran, they're not aware. And their chain of thought is so deeply entangled that if they were to return the salam, then they would lose maybe 50 pages worth of writing. If you're not one of those people, then I think it's okay, because we could just wa alaikum salam and carry on. And that would save us from a lot of social awkwardness. Because it's very important to maintain brotherhood. And for the sisterhood, you don't want to upset someone. Say, I'll give salam, he didn't give salam back, as if the brother doesn't like me. You don't want to do that. Tilawatul Quran is nafil. Tilawatul Quran is mandub, is sunnah, and mustahab. But returning salam is emphasized sunnah, and it could be wajib. Okay, barakallah fiqh. And commanding good and forbidding evil. So if you see someone, you should instruct them for good. Salah time, come on, let's go for salah. That's from your duties of sitting on the streets. And forbidding evil. If someone is doing wrong, you say, Akhi, don't do this. Don't litter. Don't bully. Don't be abusive. Don't swear. Don't pollute. Don't do noise pollution. There's such thing as noise pollution. Because we're in small spaces, a lot of people. So after certain times, you shouldn't be raising your voices, because others are trying to sleep. Others got lessons and a class and school and work and etc. This is all within consideration of ihsan. Of mu'amalat, of mu'asharat, of dealing with people, of living in society. So, once more, what are the rights of the street? Someone asks you. Lowering your gaze, stopping harm, as in not harming someone, returning salam, commanding good, forbidding evil. How many? 5. What are the rights of the street? Lowering your gaze, not harming anybody, returning salam, commanding good, forbidding evil. 1624 عن أبي طلحة زيد بن سهل رضي الله عنه قال كنا قعودا بالأفنية نتحدث فيها فجاء رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقام علينا فقال ما لكم وللمجالس والصعودات ما لكم ولمجالس الصعودات اجتنبوا مجالس الصعودات فقلنا إنما قعدنا لغير ما بأس قعدنا نتذاكر ونتحدث فقال إما لا فأدوا حقها غض البصر ورد السلام وحسن الكلام. So another story, Abu Talha Zayd ibn Sa'al radiyallahu anhu narrated that we were sitting and talking on a platform in front of our houses, when the Prophet ﷺ stopped by us and said, why do you sit on the roads, avoid sitting in them? We replied, we sit there intending no harm. Say, Ya Rasulullah, we're just chilling, we're just chilling, we're not harming anybody. Literally, wallahi, this is the, subhanAllah. And you could talk to the Prophet ﷺ in this relaxed way. So he said, we're intending no harm. We only sit to discuss religious knowledge and to talk. He said, if you have to sit, then you should fulfill the rights of the road, lower your gaze, respond to greeting, and talk in a good manner. 1625. عن جرير رضي الله عنه قال سألت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن نظر الفجأة فقال اصرف بصرك. Jarir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhu narrated that I asked the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam about the Islamic ruling on accidental glance, i.e. at a woman, one who is not Islamically allowed to look at, or for the woman at a man. And he ordered, then turn your eyes away. And then you know the very famous story. The guy says, I haven't completed my first glance yet. This is not what it's about. It's about taking a moment more than required. You see someone, you notice, you acknowledge that's a woman that you're not supposed to be looking at, you look away. There's no such thing as a time frame. It's not the time frame. It's about recognition, knowing that this is someone you're not supposed to look at, and then you move on. 1626. عن أم سلمة رضي الله عنها قالت كنا عند رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعنده ميمونة فأقبل ابن مكتوم وذلك بعد أن أمرنا بالحجاب فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم احتجبا منه فقلنا يا رسول الله أليس هو أعمى لا يبصرنا ولا يعرفنا فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أفا عمويان أنتما ألستما تبصرانه. Beautiful. Salama radiallahu anha wa ardaha narrated that I was with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam along with Maymuna, may Allah be pleased with her, and Ibn Maktoum, Abdullah ibn Maktoum, from the blind men of the Sahaba, came, and from the muaddins of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came there. This incident took place after the order of hijab, so they were supposed to observe. As you know, hijab wasn't there at the beginning, it came on later, the instruction of it being mandatory later. So he's saying this was after the ordaining of hijab. The Prophet ﷺ told us to cover ourselves. Prophet ﷺ told us, cover yourselves up, because they were sitting relaxed. We said, O Prophet of Allah ﷺ, is he not blind and is unable to see us, nor does he know us? So he replied, are you also blind and unable to see him? Subhanallah. What does that mean? It means that this concept of lowering the glance is also for women, number one. It also means the etiquette of being around people who are ghair mahram. Whether they can see you or not, you should be in a particular etiquette. If someone is ghair mahram, whether they can see you or not, if you know they're within the proximity, there's a chance that they can see you or they're around you, then you should behave in a formal way, dress in a formal way. This is very important, because it can lead to a lot of fitna sometimes otherwise. So yes, sisters, women have to also control their glances. And I know many of our sisters, they feel as though this doesn't apply to them. And they will sit there describing men in this way and that way. Wallahi, it's same for you. You have to also lower your glances. وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ وَيَحْفَظْنَ فُرُوجَهُنَّ. Tell the women to lower their glances too. 1627. عن أبي سعيد رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا ينظر الرجل إلى عورة الرجل ولا المرأة إلى عورة المرأة ولا يفضي الرجل إلى الرجل في ثوب واحد ولا يفضي المرأة إلى المرأة في الثوب الواحد. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri narrated, رضي الله عنه وأرضاه, narrated, the Prophet Muhammad said, a man must not look at another man's private parts. And this is the problem when you go swimming. Ajib people, wallahi, these people. And if you go swimming, then you must go to a private shower. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Wallah, we used to go St. George's as kids for school. And you're going to the showers sometimes, and then you see all these men are, what is this? Are you okay? This is not normal. Wallah, animals don't even do this sometimes. Ajib people, wallah. So, a man should not be looking at a man's private part. Unless, of course, there's a medical need. You go to the doctors, he needs to test you, he needs to check you. That's a separate matter. Okay? And a woman should not be looking at another woman's. So what's private part? For a man, the aura is known from the navel to below the knees. There is some difference of opinion to allow above the knees too. For a woman, her aura is her whole body, except for her face and her hands, and her feet, and of course her hair as well, depending on if it's mahram. If it's mahram. Or if it's ghair mahram, right? So there is a certain amount of leniency to the facial area for women when it comes to mahram, maharim. But when it comes to the rest of the body, then there's no reason, there's no legitimate excuse for women to see other women in an exposed manner. This is very important. You know, everyone needs to know this. Men, women, we need to know this. وَلَا يُفْضِي الرَّجُلِ الرَّجُلِ فِي ثَوْبٍ وَاحِدٍ. And furthermore, a man, neither two naked men or two naked women should lie under one duvet cover. Very important. If your cousins are sleeping over, you have to share a blanket with your cousin, then make sure you're clothed properly. It's a serious matter. You something you just laugh it off. So this also goes to show, if you're going to wear a longi, my friend, then ensure that the longi is secure. Or don't wear a longi. No, it's common because you're sleeping, you don't know what's happening. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah.
They go flying, don't they?
Khalas, we know what happens, right? So if you're gonna wear a longi in your own space, you got your private bed, private left, khalas, that's your choice. Do what you like in your privacy. But if you're gonna share with others, if you're gonna go to the masjid, if you're gonna go to a retreat, if you're gonna have a sleepover, then make sure you are using your own blankets ideally. And if you have to share a blanket, then make sure your aura is covered properly, so that no lack of haya can be there. No, shame and haya should be maintained. Having haya is very important. Al-haya is from the parts of iman. Having haya, feeling shy. Yes. Okay. Khalas, there is more to this discussion about being in seclusion with khalwa with a female or of the person of the opposite gender. It's a very important mas'ala, and I think inshallah we'll expound on that more in our next lesson, because I want to take a bit of time. Because what does it mean? Like, how do you then negotiate and navigate public spaces, universities, schools, and etc.? What are the challenges and how do you overcome them? It's a very important mas'ala. Furthermore, the whole concept of searching for a spouse and etc. To what extent do you have permission to consider a spouse in a university setting or otherwise, in a work setting? Because we're not going to pretend like we don't know what's happening. Yes, we're in a masjid and mashallah it's very nice to organize everything. But outside the masjid, society works in a very different way. So how do you uphold avoiding khalwa, not being in a secluded area with a person of the opposite gender who's not your mahram, but also navigate life? Right? It's very important mas'ala. And I think that also feeds into the discussion about what we spoke about previously also, about the necessary and inevitable mixing and the controllable and avoidable mixing. Like, you're going to go into a bus, you're not going to get expected to have men on one side and women on one side. That's not going to happen. You're going to mix. In an aeroplane, in a shopping center, it's mixed, free mixed. But you're there for a darura, for a haja, and you're there for a moment of time, and then is there a difference when it comes to your own setting, your private setting? What do you do? How do you navigate? What about the Islamic events that seem to be very much negligent when it comes to this as well? It's very, wallahi, big discussion. And I am someone that supports segregation. Yes, I have been brought up in that way. My father was very serious and strict with this matter. Parda, maintaining parda and haya, etc. So, what's the balance? How do you manage? How do you go about it? Inshallah, next week, bi'idhnillah azza wa jal. Are there any questions for today? Yes, sir.
So I've got family, for example, that observe very strict parda as well.
Yeah.
How do they go about meeting their spouse then? Like, do they
It's usually arranged marriage, we're hoping.
Yeah, arranged marriage, yeah, of course. But do they see their like potential spouse?
Of course, they have to. They should. It's from the sunnah to see them. When it comes to considering someone for a spouse, it's a form of obedience to Allah and His Rasul to go and see them, to talk to them, to communicate with them. Because the Prophet said, فَانظُرْ إِلَيْهَا. Look at her, see her, for her to look at him. فَإِنَّهُ أَحْرَى أَنْ يُؤْدَمَ بَيْنَهُمَا. It's more chance of them to like each other, to love each other, to be wanting to get married to each other. And that's what Islam wants. Islam wants you to be interested in your spouse so that you can get married to them, because there's no such thing as la ikraha fi din. You can't force anyone to do anything. They have to want to get married to each other. And some people are saying, some crazy people in the name of God knows what, forced marriages, etc. Allah, these ajib people. And it angers me a lot when people use Islam to legitimize their crimes. Those people have a special level of anger to preserve for them, because how dare you? Beautiful Allah's religion, and you try to use it for your own gains and in a wrong way as well. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Anyway, so they do, yes, they should see their spouse. Okay, I thought does that satisfy your question? Okay, what's the next question, guys?
So, what you should do if you go to a wedding, like free dancing?
Wallahi, this is inshallah, we'll talk about it more. And I know next week's going to be a long one, so we'll save it for next week, inshallah. Prepare all your questions for next week. Inshallah, if I'm healthy, inshallah, we'll cover all the questions, yes.
And regarding how you're saying about zina, so if someone is like contacting someone obviously with the wrong intention, well, obviously over the phone or through text, does that count as zina with the hands?
Yes, because you're leading up to it, because your speech is part of speech. Speech is speech. And in exchange of speech is writing. So writing in an illicit way is in the place of speaking in an illicit way. Does that make sense? Because sometimes people with their writing, their text messages are much more dangerous than their speech. On their speech, they'll be like, oh, you seem like this guy's a poet. But you mean, we can't even say 2 words. You can't even speak properly. Anyone else? Any questions? Okay, inshallah, we'll wrap it up here for now. After is going to be short, but still it's been about 37 minutes. سبحانك اللهم اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك. السلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته.